The rage felt against other races is responsible for the majority of conflicts, fighting, and civil wars around the world. Racism or ethnic enmity is the source of this conflict, as they passionately maintain the superiority of their own race or ethnic grouping. Those who believe in such ideologies harbor hatred for others. In their view, the differences between races and nations justify conflict and competition to the death. In recent times, this ideology gave birth to the savagery of Nazism. Solely in the name of racism, the Nazis wreaked terrible mass slaughter on millions just because they were Jews, Slavs, or Gypsies. There is no place for racism in the morality of the Qur'an. In the Qur'an, God declares that the various nations and tribes exist so that people might come to know each other. A believer is well aware that the only criteria of nobility is fear of God, as God made clear in the following verse. The noblest among you in God's sight is that one of you who best performs his duty. God is all-knowing, all-aware. The catalyst for the most dreadful disasters of our times was regarding differences between people not as an opportunity for cultural exchange, but as a reason for conflict. The war in Zaire between the Hutus and Tutsis, two of the tribes in the country, is a typical example of the interracial conflicts that took place in the 20th century. The two tribes became engaged in this war in the spring of 1997. The repercussions of the conflict extended over an area comprising 5 countries including Zaire, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, and Tanzania. The tribal war resulted in a major genocide which left nearly 500,000 people dead. Innocent people were slaughtered merely because they were from a different tribe. Even babies and very young children were killed. Thousands of immigrants underwent gruesome ordeals in the forests, and ultimately the majority lost their lives from hunger and disease. In the Quran, God draws our attention to the fanatical rage of ignorant people in these words. Those who are disbelievers fill their hearts with fanatical rage, the fanatical rage of the time of ignorance. And God sent down serenity to His messenger and to the believers, and bound them to respect the formula of heedfulness which they had most right to and were most entitled to. God has knowledge of all things. The racist movements seen all over the world expose the dark side of atheism. Peace among men will only be possible by living by and giving life to the values of the Quran across the globe. The moral degeneration we have been discussing in this film is something known to just about everyone. The great majority of people, however, never assume any responsibility for finding a solution to these problems. They do not even feel the need to think about them. Other people would like to resolve these problems, but are unable to. The reason for this failure is that the solution is invariably sought in beliefs. The solution does not lie in the implementation of this or that system. The problem is changing people's ways of living. It is one of people becoming compassionate and altruistic instead of selfish and ruthless. The solution lies in people living by the values of the Qur'an that God has chosen for us. Because God, who created all of us, has set out moral values by which we can all live in a spirit of well-being, peace, and security. And these He has revealed in the Qur'an. When those who have done their duty are asked, "What has your Lord sent down?" their reply is, "Good. There is good in this world for those who do good, and the abode of the hereafter is even better. How wonderful is the abode of the heedful." Those who turn their backs on the values of the Qur'an, who spend all their lives in satisfying their own selfish desires, inflict great cruelty on other people by doing so, and are ultimately deceived. God offers them this counsel. Mankind, your rebelliousness is only against yourselves. There is the enjoyment of the life of this world, and then you will return to us, and we will inform you about what you did. At this moment, as you watch this film, many people are suffering oppression. Today, for some people, rather than being a public service, politics has turned into a profitable industry. The rage felt against other races is responsible for the majority of conflicts, fighting, and civil wars around the world. Children forced to work and risk their lives for pitifully little remuneration. Peace among men will only be possible by living by and giving life to the values of the Qur'an across the globe.